Hello everyone. So in this demonstration, we will learn how to deploy VMware Cloud Foundation 9.1 as in a lab POC, and this is going to be a greenfield VCF deployment. So I'll walk you through on each and every option what it is going to ask during the deployment of the VCF fleet. So here, few things I want to explain or I want to discuss with you before you see the next demonstration. So assumption is, what I've done is, as this is a lab POC, so I'm going to just deploy it as a simple and small deployment so that it can be deployed within limited resources. I provisioned 4 ESXi servers as per the bill of material. So these are just 4 names I used, and the resource allocation is something like that. This is small lab, so I just give what were minimum needed to get the deployment completed. Apart from that, there is another very important component. Even if that is not configured, you will not able to deploy. It will, still give you error, and until unless you fix that, you will not able to proceed. So that's your DNS configuration, right? So if you see your up, upgrade documentations or the deployment documentations, you will see we have so many FQDN required for the components which is going to be deployed during this implementation. So I have DNS configured and ready with uh, ready in the environment which has forward lookup zone and reverse lookup zone both configured. Apart from that, I have configured offline depot where I'm leveraging the Windows IIS server and have all the binary downloaded to that particular system. And then I have deployed VCF installer appliance. I remember in our the legacy, or you can say 4.5 or 5.x, we have something called VCF Cloud Builder. That is no more there, right? In your VCF 9.x, now we have VCF installer appliance. So I deployed that appliance, given some name and IP to that, and even connected that appliance to the offline depot. That's where I have this Windows server, and then all the binary downloaded to that particular appliance. So from where I start these demonstrations, you will be on uh, the UI of VCF installer appliance, where I will show how where that uh, VCF installer is connected to the offline depot, and I'll show you the list of binary downloaded already there. And then we will go ahead with the deployment part. One thing I just want to highlight here that in this deployment I'm using the JSON spec file just to avoid typing errors or even saving over the time, because we have to type a lot of things in that particular deployment. Otherwise it's good to use that time and type everything in your environment, but just for this lab demonstrations I keep it simple. Let the info be collected, recorded in my JSON file, and then during the deployment I just point it to that file. But along with that, I'm going to still edit that the configuration, and then we'll still see each and every option, each and every screenshots, what it is coming, how what are the options there. But yes, at least the values what is needed will be pre-filled for us. So with that note, now let's move to the lab and see the VCF installer appliance interface, and then start from there. And this installer, if you see, is configured for offline depot, and then it's all green, all downloaded. So if you see the depot setting, you can see yes, I connected to my local repo port 80. Lab is okay. I'm fine with port 80, but it is highly recommended to go for 443. And then if you see the 910 and the entire binary is downloaded, all success. So with that note, let me go back and go ahead with deploy. So this is the same installer. Now we can leverage to deploy VMware Cloud Foundation as well as vSphere Foundation. So whereas in our case we are doing a POC for VMware Cloud Foundation, so we can pick this one as and then provide all the input required. But to save time, and avoid any typing mistakes. I'm using the spec file here. So I pick the spec file and then I just say edit in widget, right? So that still, even I'm using the spec file, I can see each and every option, what it is asking, and wherever required, right? We can use it as a interactive way. So let me do some zoom setting so that we can see the screen in single window. Okay, so this is the first question it is asking about what you are going to deploy. Is it the new fleet or one of the VCF instance in the existing fleet? Or maybe you want some deferred components. So you can skip few components in day one and then later it can be added. So this POC purpose, we are keeping it simple. We are going with new VCF fleet. And then in the new VCF fleet, we are going ahead with next question where it's asking about, do you have any existing component? You may have, in your case, if it is a brownfield, you may have vCenter, you may have op operations, you might have automations. But as this example, we're taking everything as greenfield, nothing is existing, so we're not putting any check. The very next thing they're asking about the size options. So yes, in the production, it is always advisable to go with the high availability. Large or medium is something which you can decide as per the scale of your environment. Medium case, you see the components needed, CPU, memory, and storage is different. But if I say large, this number change, right? If you see the 84 become 120 or so on. For this lab purpose, I'm going at with simple. And in the simple, right, it's go with the size as a small. It's good for lab, good for POC. But whenever you want production, it is always advisable to go ahead with high availability. Or even this deployment can also be scaled out later for the high availability point of view. So once you say next, it asks about the network options. So what about your management component communications? Where your management network, where is your VCF management network? You may want dedicated, separate. You may want same as your management VMs. That you can decide as per your network plan. And then yes, the primary or the principal storage for your management domain. Now we have multiple choices. Earlier, long back in our 4X or something like that, we have only vSAN, but now you have vSAN, even ESA, OSA, or BMFS over FC, or even NFS v3, right? So in this my setup, I'm using vSAN and with OSA, I'm keeping the fault tolerance as 1, so FTT1 is there. Uh, again, I leave it as a dedupe and the encryptions, but again, in your case, you can decide what you want. So now, considering that what I answered from 1 to 4 first, it's giving me some summary now to just again have a look. So according to my selections, if you see what are the number of components and each one how much resources it may be expected to have. Then if you see the network requirement, it say that you may need a network for ESX management, VM management, overlay, vSAN, vMotion. So you need to have all these planning in advance, right, before you actually start deployment. And then it's also giving some idea that what all DNS setup you need to have, what are the FQDNs for which component that will be, right? So even you can see the details here more, right? In my case, I leveraging Holo router in which I have all these DNS configuration in place. So with that note, if you click next, now you actually start preparing the next phase of that, right? So if you see now, okay, which version, uh, and you see that in my case, right, it all come pre-filled. The reason being because I selected it as an JSON spec. In case if you are deploying new no spec file, this value you have to type or pick and choose. So make sure you have the sheet prepared yourself so that while you are deploying, You exactly know what need to be filled at which place. I have 4 ESXi, so it is listing due to my spec file only, else you have to type them and everything. So I'm saying fine. It's going to, quick check whether I have enough resources or not. It says, as per recommendations, some warning for the resources, but I'm okay for that because this is a lab and I know what I deploy for that. This is enough. And then you see in the network side right here, you have ESXi management, VM management, and then you can specify, the VLAN number, the respected network. In our case, we are using the management and VM management both as the same network, but in your environment, it can be purely your call. Management service is a range of IP addresses from where to where, which it needs some extra IP, free IP, we can provide that. uh, Automation IP range, it also needs some extra. That all is there in the planning sheet, right? So we have to prepare that beforehand once you really come and start deployment, right? vMotion, VLAN, MTU, the network range, vSAN, and then the NSX overlay. For NSX overlay, rather than IP pool here, we are leveraging DHCP. So in your case, it's purely your network planning. But yes, this is very crucial information, right, which has to be filled in VCF deployment. Then on the next page, if you see in my case, all the names come pre-filled. The reason is only that spec file, but else you have to type, right? And each line you type and even you click on the next, it verify the same time whether this particular name is resolvable in DNS or not, right? So you have to have DNS beforehand, else you cannot even see the next button here, right? It will keep throwing you the error. The name is not available, right? So in my case, that's all okay. Then vCenter FQDN can, whatever your DNS plan, you can give that a data center name, cluster name, SSO domain, in type as per your setup. vCenter cluster name, the vCenter data store name, you can provide that. And yes, this is for the distributed switch planning, right? So in my case, I have ESXi server with 4 network adapter. In the planning is I'm using first two for management and vMotion and the other two for the vSAN, right? So that's how it is selected. You can do the change, right, by going to here and you can say, okay, you may want NSX as separate, storage as separate, or custom. I'm using storage as separate. That's how it look like this for me. Go to next, the NSX, the NSX cluster name and the appliance name. If you're using high availability, it asks for the extra appliance names as well. Then it will ask for the SDDC manager FQDN. And again, every time you're giving the name, it's revalidating that with your DNS. Okay, so this is again keep taking from the spec. Otherwise, even you have to provide all that in this page itself. Once everything is in place, if you go to the next, you will see now it give you the entire summary here. You just read out it thoroughly, and then if you think there is anything not correct or missing, you can go back, do the fix, recheck, revalidate, and if you think finally this is what you want, you can go to the next page. That's where now it will do the validation, and until unless all these 16 validation checks, right, it's not passed. At least if there is a warning, it will let you know that what it is there. But if you acknowledge the warning, if you think that is what I can okay with, you can do the deploy. But else, if it is an error, you cannot go ahead with deploy. You have to fix that first, and then only you can deploy, right? So I'll keep it running for some time. I'll just take a pause here. And then once this is completed, I'll come back and then, we will just quick review that how many point it's saying warning and for what that warning is. Okay, so see you in some time. Yes, so I'm back. So you can see now all the validations are completed. but we see there are a couple of validations where it's saying warning, right? So let's see what it is. So for the DNS, it says, as per your installer config, it says 1 to 110.129, but as per your value you entered is 10.11, right? So this is a mismatch. For my case, this is fine because both these IPs pointing to the same system, both act as a DNS, so I'm okay with that. I'm acknowledging it. For the time configuration, it's again complaining same. Yeah, it is reaching to different IP. What you say is it is 10.11. I'm okay for that. This is my NTP as well. And then if you see the capacity warning here, right, that it says you have 1800 gig wherever is you recommend to have 6700 approx. But I know say POC small deployment and that would be well fit in 1800 gig. So I'm acknowledging that also. So now see with these three, which I know it's not a challenge in my case, I will able to still complete. I acknowledged and then you can see that deploy button is highlighted, right? So, but if there is any error, it will not come and you have to fix that error, rerun the validation, and once you reach the stage where it is available, you can go ahead and deploy that. So I'm clicking on deploy and then you will see, right, it will start the process of VCF domain deployment, but it will take time, right, because so many components need to be deployed and all that. And as this is in lab, even in fact, it take more time. So with that note, if you see the very first thing it is deploying vCenter, then it will deploy SDDC manager, it will do cluster configurations, NSX, management services. And then if you see after management services, right, it is going to deploy even your operation appliance, do the configuration of that for management service. Then, it will come to the last component, that's the automation. So I leave in this particular, the deployment for a while. It will surely going to take hours together. I'll pause here the recording and once it is completed, I'll come back and then at least show post deployment, right? What it is, how it look like. And if we connect the management vCenter, what all VMs are, you can say the appliances are created under that. And if we go to the operations, how it look like, right? So meanwhile, I'm putting pause here, but surely, I'll come back and show the next part once it is done. So I'm back, where we left earlier when we submit the job for deploy. And then, I keep the recording paused. And now once it's completed, I'm back. So if you see the same installer right where we left, it says, congratulations, your deployment is completed, right? So you see that all the tasks completed throughout automation. Each part has certain steps under that, right? So all of them are completed, and then that's why you see the congratulations, it is done. If you wish to download the JSON for future, you can do that as well. You can come to anytime this installer and you can get that. If you want, to have the passwords, what is used for the deployment, you want to keep it somewhere in the safe place, you can do that. It says, okay, this is your ops URL and this is the username and password. You can see from there. And the next step is see, okay, you go to the ops and then, uh, for sure, do the needful for the licensing and all. Until and unless you have not done the license part, it will be working for 90 days under the evaluation. But, we have to do the needful beforehand. But yes, this is the lab, so I'm okay. I'm going with that evaluation only. So if you click on the open VCF UI, I clicked that one, and then if you see here, right, under the another tab, I have that one open, right? So let me see, fine, open. So you see now it's coming here and showing me that VCF ops, and those who work with VCF, sorry, the area operations in the past versions, you have somewhat similar, but here you have different UI now because they have top 4 tabs now: operate, These are the all operations related activities, then manage, protect, and build, right? So whatever we do from ARIA life cycle in past, the patching, updating, scaling, all that from the ARIA life cycle, as ARIA life cycle is no more there. So now you do all that operation from this build, right? So if you go to the build, you have the software depot. I connected the software depot to my local offline depot, same one I used for the installer. And then if you see the life cycle here is the operation. So you see what all components we have deployed under that particular fleet. Most of them are parts, some of them are even appliances. And then if you see the VCF instance here, that's where we have the first instance deployed for management. And if you see under that is the management domain. And then what are the components, what are the ESXi, what their version is. And if you want to plan upgrade and all in future, that's where we can do. Those who have done in past some upgrade with VCF, this interface may be familiar for you. That's what we do earlier from the SDDC manager. If I take you to the vCenter server now, so this is the vCenter server, right, which is deployed during the management deployment. And you see here a bunch of VMs created during this process, right? So the management vCenter, okay, NSX server is fine, ops and collector is okay, SDDC manager is okay. And extra appliance, that is a license server. It's more like a read-only machine. You not do much changes into that. Just the config and all is done from the ops only. But you see the console, how this VM console look like. So it just show you that VCF license server is there. It is connected, normal. That's it. You cannot do any interaction to this machine as such. Okay, so go back to your vCenter. Apart from that, if you see the VCF management services, you see there are one template. Along with that, there are 4 virtual machines running. Remember, these are the management services VM within which our services are running, right? Which you see under the components in your fleet, right? So one of them is acting as a master and other are the worker. These are the Kubernetes cluster, and all our services are running under that, right? So as we pick small, that's why they are 4. You might have picked on high availability with the large, there might be more VMs. So that's purely depend on that. Then you have VCF automation, one of the appliances here up and running. Because again, we picked small one, that's why it's a single appliance. Otherwise, you may have even more numbers, right, as for the cluster requirement. So now if I take you to the NSX, this is what the NSX appliance is deployed again with single node, because that's what we gone this simple. Anytime you have option to scale out or add more nodes, till the time you have capacity, you have all the IP and all the configuration ready, you can go ahead and do that. So for sure, that will end the demonstration of deploying the VCF fleet and management domain in Greenfield. And we have seen, what all components are created during this deployment, right? And for sure, I'll create few more small videos specific to the topic, like, how we may deploy the log management service, then maybe how to integrate your VCF with your identity source. So thank you so much. See you in some other video.